Hello. Hello to all of you enthusiastic athletes out there, anyone who is on the YouTube space, anyone who has subscribed to my channel. There's about 61 of you right now. I appreciate your interest and support. Just from younger childhood, we've gone to school together. You just kind of know me from various things. I always played sports growing up and stuff, and now I have a job as a data analyst. So uh, anyone who knows me from one of those formats, great to have you on here. Also great to connect with anybody new. And that's the fantastic thing about YouTube is, YouTube allows you to connect with, people in other countries. I see some good comments, some support from people on my shorts. Kind of just like a body update, just kind of, changing my composition, all that, reaching kind of my physical goals as well as my mental and, subjective goals that are more related to, my races and stuff. So this is going to be like the first formal long format conversation that I have in 2024. I uploaded sent out a kind of an introductory video just related to kind of what my plan is for 2024, how I plan on improving everything related to kind of my personal training platform, my website, my training, my work, my professional life, all that stuff. It's just going to be, I think nicely condensed into kind of one platform, one format where you as the consumer, as the subscriber, as the person who's viewing this content can get hopefully a lot out of it. I'm going to open up maybe about some personal things that some people do on online or on the internet, that might not be commonly addressed across other platforms. In my opinion, I think that this channel can provide a lot of value to anyone who is at my level, which is kind of an advanced level, specifically high athlete focused, or it's somebody who's just beginning, or somebody who's really at a professional level. I think I can relate to anyone from basically 350 pounds. This is your first time working out. You're going to get, you have diabetes. You're trying to maybe even save your life by working out. There's people that are in that position, and then it can go all the way up to somebody who's, saying, "Hey, I'm pro," or I'm basically a high level amateur. I want some body skills. I want some, I'm a, college runner, whatever it is. I'm trying to improve my diet. There's so many. I strongly believe there's so many people that I can help just on this platform, and I'm all in on it. I've dedicated a lot of money the last 2 years of my life to this with diet, regimen, scheduling, everything. So I'm excited to kind of kick this year off and give you guys kind of insights as to what I'm doing from a day-to-day basis. I'd like to basically treat this first podcast as a kind of a 2 week summary of what I'm doing, like a mini prep for this half marathon that I'm going to be starting doing on March 3rd on Sunday. So less than 2 weeks from now at this point, I think 13 days. So that's going to be kind of a great start to this season for me. And I guess I should define seasons. So seasons are different for everyone. I mean, bodybuilders, they'll talk about like a nine, maybe like they do one show, especially the high level, the elite guys, like go to the Olympia, and then they have a 10, 11 month off season, whatever it is. For me personally, is kind of an amateur guy that just does a lot. I basically have like a 6 to 7 month off season and then a 5 to 6 month, full racing season where I basically just shift my focus from cardio to weightlifting or vice versa, but I still maintain both. Um, so in the off season, for example, my mileage is roughly 15 to 20 miles a week running. So I'll do a lot of 5K runs before I lift weights, just along those lines. And then more of the longer days, longer runs are going to be like 6 to 8 miles. Maybe once a week, once every couple of weeks, nothing major, but I'm just focused on building strength, working out. Basically, I work at this off season, I worked out a lot, like 8 times a week. So basically twice on Monday and Tuesday. For example, I just finished my morning workout at 5:30 in the morning, which was back this morning with a little bit of cardio. I just did a 2.5 mile run. And this evening, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do maybe an 800-meter swim, maybe a 5 mile run, and then go do a shoulder workout, something along those lines. Then I'll get deeper into kind of the details on how I train each muscle group as a endurance focused athlete at this point. So I'm kind of shifting from, prioritize weights, just maintain your cardio with, cardio is always like a supplementation for lifting weights for a lot of guys. Top level guys that are online like Sam Sulik. He's always talking about do your cardio, don't be lazy. Jay Cutler is another example who always just spoke about how he would 10, 15 minutes on the bike before lifting just to keep get his heart rate up. Working that lower zone of cardio just to keep your basically your cardiovascular system able to keep up with these intense sets and high volume and high weight and all that. So that never changes for me, but the attention to building muscle as opposed to maintaining muscle and shrinking a little bit over time, that's the phase that I'm at now. So I'm going to dig into this 2 week time frame that I'm going to be attacking aggressively starting today. So today, you look at my mile output, it's going to be 7.5 miles in a day of running and then two weightlifting sessions, which is a lot, but it's a start to my week. So again, I'm not focused on building muscle. I'm focused on getting the most out of my training, having enough energy on a day-to-day basis to execute the run, the exercise, whatever it is. Um, and I guess I'll start out maybe just by providing a profile of me and my body weight and all that stuff and my metrics and my top sets for weightlifting, just to give people an idea. Um, Most people don't really talk about that. Some do, maybe at the higher levels. If someone asked Hafthor Bjornsson, he's posting like the other day on Instagram, he posted a triple. He did 3 reps of 400 kilograms in deadlift, and it took him an hour, hour and a half in the workout to work up to that top set. I'll treat it the same way. I mean, I don't have anything to brag about in terms of setting records or anything, but again, going over maybe the statistics of where I'm at with my fitness will help maybe kind of set the standard or set the tone for the conversation for this channel. So right now in the off season, I topped out at like 196, 197 pounds. And right now I weigh 192. So that's heavier than I was last year, about 4 pounds than I was last year going into this first half marathon. Um, so I'm 6'1". I got pretty good body composition. I think I'm not sub 10% body fat, but I'm pretty low body fat. I post a lot of pics just on those YouTube shorts just to kind of give kind of a progress update. I was pretty shredded like this last summer at the end of keto. I pretty much had a six pack, which was cool. I've really never really had a full six pack in my life, so it'd be cool to get to that maybe during this race season at some point. Um, but in terms of strength and overall top level strength, if I'm 195 pounds plus, for example, I got pretty good lifts. I mean, I deadlifted 315 for 15 reps, which is kind of a big goal for me, a big benchmark. And then for bench press, it's not my strongest lift, but it stays pretty strong throughout the off season. Like, repping 225 for sits top set is like 6 to 8 reps of 225, which I'm happy with, with a body weight below 200 pounds. Especially when you're kind of not, year round prioritizing strength like a power lifter or even a bodybuilder for anyone who wants to do endurance and lift weights. And then, I have a decent squat. I do high volume for legs. So off season, I'm still throwing around 225, sometimes 275 on the squat, but I never really changed weight. I just changed like the quality of the set, the rep range. So for example, with that deadlift at 315, I'm going to keep deadlifting all year 350 pounds. But when I'm, basically trying to run a marathon, I'm only going to do it for like literally 4 or 5 reps as opposed to 15 reps. And then same thing along all those lifts. That's how I kind of measure my progress is for those compound movements. And you can do it differently, but this is what I have discovered as successful for me because I still can train at a high level, for running perspective when I keep the same weight through these 3 lifts and I don't decrease or maintain strength and keep it basically through the entire season. So, going back to those 3 compound movements, I'm still going to hit every muscle group during this race season. And specifically for this 2 week training session before I run my half marathon, I've already done a couple 8 mile runs. This Wednesday, I'm going to build up to a 12 mile, about 11.5 mile kind of peak run. This is going to be one of my 2 peak training runs for this first half marathon. So there's basically an adaptation phase where if you've been training your body to maybe hold calories or burn calories, from a muscle building perspective, and I'll do another episode on diet. But specifically, I'm going to basically consume more food in like a bulking state where I want to put on muscle. But for these 2 weeks, I'm basically like kind of on a steady cut where my body weight's going to go down from like 192 down to like 185, 186, hopefully within a month. And that would be like my optimal running weight for this next half marathon after this one. And then building into the full marathon in 2 months from now, it'd be more like, 180 to 182, something like that. So that's kind of the trajectory of how my body weight's going to change through this. But kind of circling back to the training days, like I said, there's going to be a Wednesday where I run a 11.5, maybe 12 mile run. And I'll revisit that same run next week on Tuesday. So I basically, have a 4 or 5 day taper where the race is the following Sunday. So I have like kind of a peak training from a weekly perspective. It's going to be like at least 1 or 2 days a week. I'll have peak cardio day where I pretty much just do straight cardio, maybe some light weightlifting. That's it. But it's the priority is cardio, and then I build my weightlifting around that because the endurance, the cardio takes precedent. So that is the opposite of an off season. So like I said, I was running 50 to 20 miles a week during the off season. Now it's going to be 25, 40 miles a week during kind of a half marathon peak training season these next 2 weeks. And then going into like a full marathon prep where it turns into 18-mile runs, like one 18-mile run a week, one 12-mile run a week. I see those templates that companies and other trainers provide that basically say, you can do a 6 month marathon prep program where you just basically follow this exact mileages. And that's a nice template to go off of. But one thing I want to emphasize, and one thing that I'm big on, and one thing I share with my clients through these templates that I create, is that it's a template. It's called a template for a reason. You can do micro adjustments from a day to day basis and go off of feel, and that will really kind of optimize your training. For example, if you write down that you're going to run 12 miles and the next day you're going to run 5 miles and the next day 2 and then back to 6. So if you have a great 12-mile run and you feel like you can maybe increase the mileage the following day if you're recovered from running, because running you can recover quicker. There's science backed studies that say after 8 hours you're pretty much fully recovered from cardio that's not super intense. So if I run 6 miles because I'm in good shape, I can fully recover in 8 hours and the following day and run another 6 miles. But the trick comes in where you want to really push yourself for those peak days where, like, I have not run 12 miles yet this year, this calendar year in 2024. But the first time I do, I want to listen to my body and see how I react. So if I feel like I want to take the full following day off from running so that I can recover quicker and have a nice 6 mile run in 2 days, I'm going to do that. But that's what I talk about in terms of having a template. My template is I'm going to prioritize cardio while I'm still maintaining muscle mass and kind of keeping some size and maybe, like I said, getting to 180, 182 pounds by peak running event in a couple months. But I don't agree with the 6 month phase where you run the exact mileage that's recommended. You don't deviate from that. Maybe the intensity is different. There's some pretty good, fitness people, even on YouTube, that kind of highlight that. You make the hard runs harder and the easier runs easier. If I have a day where I want to have a good weight session in between, like while I'm training for an endurance race, I'm going to only run 1 or 2 miles because I'm not going to lose the cardiovascular fitness that I've gained. And this goes back to the adaptation phase, which I can dig into more maybe in the next episode. But what I'm trying to say here is that you want to make sure that everything that you want to build to is preserved, but you want to be flexible. But you want to maintain optimal effort. You're not gonna. It's just like straight with lifting. You're not going to grow if you don't push the food and have uncomfortable sets where like your top set is painful and you just keep pushing the weight. And maybe you do negatives, maybe you do assisted reps, maybe you do drop sets, whatever it is. All of those intense, incremental intensifiers that increase the difficulty. You want to maintain that strategy in your racing, but it's not going to be the same miles ran every day, every week. So it's and anyone who has done this before knows what I'm talking about. But those who are beginners maybe might not understand. But it's an important thing to understand is you want to maintain your energy levels so that on a day-to-day basis you can execute the program, but you don't want to lose any opportunity, especially if you commit to like a level run. Like I'm saying, for me right now, 12-mile run. In 6 weeks, it's going to be an 18-mile run, hopefully in under 2 hours. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. That's like that's like the standard that keeps incrementally increasing. But you want to work around that standard for the top workout, and you want to basically keep high intensity in those in between workouts, but don't lose any possibilities for progress. Um, so quickly, let me circle back before I wrap this video up. Let me circle back on the weightlifting around the running. Like I said, it's going to be 25 to 40 miles a week running, which looks like if you break down the numbers, it's not going to be exact. It's going to be 12-mile day, probably at least 2 or 3 6-mile days, which is close to 30 miles, and then another couple of 5K runs. So, or even a 2-mile run, basically, and maybe on a leg day. So I'm going to be running 6 days a week, but I'm only going to have basically 1 to 2 long distance runs. And eventually, I keep that same tempo, 6 days running, but 2 short days, 2 medium days, 2 long days, pretty much. That's what The long days are gonna become longer, and the short days pretty much stay close to the same, maybe increase by a mile, but the priority is still those 2 days. Ironman training will involve swimming and biking with that same intensity and that same longer distance, but purely for a marathon, it's gonna be running, so it's gonna go from 12 miles and 6 miles on those 2 long days to 18 miles and 13 miles or 18 miles and 15 miles on those 2 long days, spread out, right? So I'm not gonna do a big leg day before I wanna run 18 miles. I've done that before, and I had to have my wife pick me up on the side. It's not fun. So basically, you wanna organize your training around those peak, cardio days. But what I'm trying to say is that right now, if I'm running 25 miles a week, eventually I'm gonna be running 36 to 56 miles a week. Basically peaking where I have, 18, 15, 8, 8, 8, 6, 4, 2, something like that. So you can get a calculator and do the math on that, but that's basically brings it up to 50 plus miles and a peak, 2 weeks of peak weeks of training. We'll get more into the taper week as we move on, but that's what I wanted to cover in this first call is, from a training perspective, from a template perspective. I've provided some very useful and some very valuable diet and exercise templates to some of my clients lately. So I'm looking forward to continuing to provide those on my website and share those with anyone interested. But I hope this is an informative kind of first full episode that I'm doing here for the new race season here in 2024. It's going to be much more to come, but I appreciate you listening in, and I hope this was a valuable experience for you and you learned some. And like I said, plenty more to come. So get out there, train hard, and have a good day. And we'll see you next time. Take care.